We got our own clique, strong people, finally getting into our own, Give you respect. You make it, not fake it, we just take it.
What's good with it, y'all? It's your boy Santo G, back at it. You already know, spreading unity, prosperity, and respect. Above all, if you're new here, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, tap that notification bell. It don't cost you nothing and it will help out this channel. So today, I wanted to tell you guys about the day that I had to go turn myself in to do 32 months with 80%. And this was actually 3 weeks after my daughter was born. So I'm gonna start from the very beginning. But before we get into that, man, I want to give a big salute to my sponsors. Shout out my good people at Killer Kush. Shout out my good people at Drip Fits. Shout out my good people at Cali Bullies. And go follow my good people at Hate Art Extracts. Those are the proud sponsors of this channel. So with that being said, man, let's get into this story. So if you guys are day ones with my content, or if you're not, let me just give you a little rough draft of what ended up happening and how I got myself into that situation. So at the age of 16, I ended up catching an attempted murder charge. They were trying to give me 25 to life, but I ended up taking a deal for 10 years. So when I got out from doing those 10 years, I actually ended up serving 9 years, 4 months. Out of those 10 years, I got out. I was doing good. Got out, paroled. I was living with my wife at the time. We weren't married yet, but I was living with my wife. And I was going to work, coming back, going to work, coming back. Everything was good. Everything was a little too good. You know what I mean? It seemed like everything was just coming easy. So I end up meeting somebody that lived in the same apartment complex where I was living at. One thing led to another. Not even 2 months out, I ended up giving them a ride somewhere. On the way back, cops got behind me. I ended up going on a high-speed chase. Homeboy lied to me. He said that he was on the run for a murder case, talking about he was facing life. So I ended up going on a high-speed chase. I got paranoid, went on a high-speed chase, crashed my car, ended up wrecking, caught a new case. So I actually ended up getting bailed out. I ended up fighting it from the streets. So they ended up giving me 16 months, which is what a felony evading case carries. But because I had just got out and I had a strike, they ended up doubling me up. So I ended up doing 32 months with 80%. So that's what I turned myself in to do. So I'm fresh out. Like I said, I was only out 2 months. I'm out 2 months, living with my wife. We got pregnant, and I say we because it was a planned pregnancy, so we got pregnant. Next thing you know, I'm in this situation, and all because I was chilling around the wrong individual. Because at the end of the day, I know you guys are probably like, why'd you even go on a high-speed chase? It was my car. Even though I didn't have a license, it was still my car. I didn't have a reason to run. Worst case scenario, they were gonna take the car, give me like a 10-day flash. It was my first violation. I was doing good. But due to the fact that I had just got out, I still had that prison mentality. When homeboy is talking about that he's on the run for a murder case, I just beat a life sentence. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I did my 10 years, so you're probably like, how'd you beat it? Because I didn't get life. Regardless of the fact that I did the time that I did, I didn't get life. So I call it as I beat life. So when he said that, my mind was like, oh man, again? Like, which I never should have. You know what I mean? I should have just been like, hey boy, you better run. You know what I'm saying? Straight up, you better run, my G. Like, why'd you even get in my whip knowing that I'm on parole? not even 2 months out. Why would you even put me in that situation? You know what I mean? Rolling with me, dog. Like, now thinking like an adult, you know what I mean? Like somebody that got kids worried about me and mine. That's the way I think, and that's the way I should have processed it back then, but I did it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the reason I'm even going back there. So, boom. That ends up happening. I end up having to fight it from the streets. Like I said, we ended up getting pregnant. So I'm going to court the whole time. I believe the max was like 7 years. You know what I'm saying? The max of the felony evading. So I'm going to court, and the whole time I got a public defender. You know what I'm saying? I ended up being blessed of getting bailed out, but we from the hood, you know what I'm saying? It's either a lawyer or you get bail, you know what I mean? Plain and simple. So ended up just fighting it, postponing, and they just ended up coming with, 32 months with 80, and it wasn't even a deal. It was just, take this. But I ended up talking to my public defender and telling them this was like around like September, October. I caught my case. All right, let's see. I got out in May. I caught my case in August. So you guys do the math. I got out in May. I caught my case in August. And then I want to say by like October, November, I was already taking the deal. But the only stipulations that I had was I already had a due date that my daughter was going to be born. So I told them, like, look, I'll take whatever you guys are giving me. If you guys say that's the lowest, whatever, I try to use the Romero Act, which means because my first case, I was a juvenile, they can't use it against me and use the strike to double me up. I try to use that, the Romero Act, but they said due to the fact that I was only out 2 months, I didn't prove that I was rehabilitated. So it like struck that out. I didn't have no motions or nothing to piggyback off of. I ain't no smart individual when it comes to laws. I'm gonna be straight up. So I just ended up telling them, like, look, my daughter's supposed to be born on this date. So they gave me like 2-3 more weeks after the date that I gave them that my wife was due. So boom, sign. They're like, all right, come back on this day to turn yourself in. If you don't turn yourself in on this date, then you're gonna get the max 7 years. That's how I know that the max that carries is 7. So, boom, go. The whole time, you know what I mean? I'm living for the next few months. Since then, I had to go through Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all those holidays, knowing like, man, I'm spending them out here because that was the first one that I got to spend free. Keep in mind, I just got out in May that year. Haven't been out for 9 years, almost 10 years, almost completed the whole 10 years. When it comes to Christmas and all that, I think I did have 10 Christmas like that I was in there. So I'm like, man, experiencing all this, it was like a bittersweet moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm experiencing all these holidays out there, but I know for sure, the next ones, the next 2, because that's what it was, the next 2, I'm going to spend them in there, like away from y'all. So it was like a bittersweet moment, man. And just having to go turn myself in, man, those were the worst days. Like, I couldn't even sleep. I'm gonna just be real. Like, once it came getting closer, like the weeks closer and all that, I was a wreck to the point where I was just popping pills and I wasn't going to sleep because it was me like going to sleep. I was just nodding out type. That's how I was getting sleep. I'll just nod out wherever I ended up sitting down at or wherever I ended up on the couch, wherever, I just ended up falling asleep. Sometimes in the whip, wherever I was at, I would just nod off. That's how of a emotional wreck I was. You know what I mean? I wouldn't wish that on nobody. Anybody, if you ever living like that, you on the run or something like that, you know you gotta go take that vacation, man. Just go take that vacation, like, because, man, I ain't gonna lie, them days right there was rough. And just having to go in that courthouse and turn myself in was rough. You know what I mean? Especially because the day that I went to turn myself in, 2 times it was like if they didn't want to take me, like if they just wanted me to just be like, fuck that, I'm leaving. All right, so I was supposed to turn myself in on March 31st, right? So I go, and it just so happened that that weekend was Easter. It was in 2018. Even if you guys want to look it up, the exact dates, it was March 31st, 2018. It was on a Friday. I was supposed to turn myself in that day, but because that Sunday was Easter was on the first Sunday of April, and it ended up happening that it was, I don't know how it ended up working out, but it was a weird Easter where it landed on like the first or the second. So boom, I go on Friday to the courthouse to try to turn myself in. I walk up in there, I'm saying bye to everybody. I got my wife with me, you know what I mean? She got my baby girl, and I'm just right there. And whole time I go inside, they're like, hey, nobody's here. I'm like, hey, I'm here to turn myself in. They're like, no, like, you gotta go. Like, what? They're like, well, ain't nobody here. Like, it's a holiday weekend. Come back on Monday. Looked around like, what? Are you serious? They're like, yeah. Congratulations, you got an extra weekend. They're like, come back on Monday. What? Go. Got to spend Easter out. And then come Monday, I go again. I'm sitting in the courtroom. 12 o'clock hits. They're like, okay, everybody, come back after lunch. So now, like, I'm still fighting it from the streets. You know what I mean? I haven't turned myself in yet. I was there that day. We were going to finalize everything. I was going to go in, all that, you know? I had signed it, but they hadn't officially sentenced me yet. They were waiting for that for when I go surrender myself. So I'm sitting outside. They're like, okay, come back. So now I'm like, damn. First I come. They're like, nobody's here. Come back Monday. Now I come. I'm here. They're like, hey, come back after lunch. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up going back, blazing. You know what I mean? I should have spent more time with my daughter. You know what I mean? That's one thing I regret, because I didn't. You know what I mean? I was so much of a nervous wreck. Like, I just wanted to blaze. Like, I needed to calm my nerves down. So, and it just ended up going. I remember I was just blazing with the homie. Come on, hey, it's that time. You gotta go. Boom, go to court. I remember I wrote like a few numbers on my hand. Soon as I go, I'm right there, like in front of the desk. Now I'm not sitting outside, I'm inside. I remember I had numbers in my hand. I remember I told my lawyer, the public defender, I'm like, hey, let me get like a paper or post-it or something, and let me get a pen, like. And the numbers I had, I remember I wrote them down on a paper, like, that way I don't forget. I was so much of a nervous wreck that even numbers that I knew, I still wrote them down because my mind was just everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I ain't even gonna lie. It was to the point where allegedly, I ended up taking like 30 of the green Xanax, the hoax, the incredible hoax, the Xanax. Allegedly, 20 or 30 of them ended up in there with me, and the first few couple of weeks, that's all I would do. Wake up, boom, pop like half a bar. Whole day, like, that'll calm down my nerves, and I just went through the motions. Like, I had just got out from doing a lot of time, so I knew how to program. Like, I know what time it is. Now it's just like, man, we gotta get back into the groove, you know? But just having to grab my balls and turn myself in, that was the worst, because I could have prolonged it. I could have been like, oh, fuck that, catch me if you can, and had that knucklehead mentality. But all they're gonna do is be harassing my family. All they're gonna do is be harassing my wife, because she's the one that signed for my bail, you know? So I'm like, man, you know what? I'm gonna be a man, gotta grab my balls, and I gotta go do this time. And now look, since that time of me turning myself in and doing that time, we right here with it, you know what I'm saying? So whenever you have anything like that hanging over you, anything like that, man, let's just get it over with, face it, and that way you could be out free and without having anything hanging over you, man. I appreciate you guys for watching. This is the time I had to turn myself into custody. It's your boy Santo G. Shout out my good people at Killer Kush. Shout out my good people at Drip Fits. Salute my good people at Cali Bullies. And go follow my good people at Hate Art Extracts as well. Those are the proud sponsors of this channel. And with that being said, if you would like to sponsor this channel, you would like to be a part of the Santo G Productions movement, get at me on IG or get at me through email. I'll send you my rates. We could work something out. I will work with all budgets. Let's get something going. You already know. Unity, prosperity, and respect above all.